Hello everybody, welcome to the Cycle Cart Workshop. My name is Dennis. This is video number 2 of my cycle cart build, the cycle cart number 4 actually. It's the 1937 Studebaker Modified. In the first video I managed to get the chassis welded together. In this video I'm working on components, mainly in the front end. And you'll see how I'm designing those and moving forward on a couple items. I'm also working on my full-size drawing side view, so I'll show you a little bit of that too. Alright, what do you say we get started and see what's in store for this video. Now I'm turning my attention to doing a full-size side view drawing on that piece of 1/4 inch MDF that I have at the house. It's 40 inches by 96, so I want to do this full-size drawing. Now, this is a photograph. If you recall, on the BMW, I used this big print program here to print some full-size images that I could use to draw body lines with. So I took a picture of my drawing here, this scale drawing with my smartphone, put it into my computer, and I'll put the website of this big print program. I think it was $22 that I bought last year. So I downloaded the image in, I told it that it was 30 inches high, and now it is showing me, these are pieces of paper here. These are ledger size paper, 11 by 17, and if I print this, I'll have 3 pages high and 6 pages long, so I'll have 18 pieces of paper that I can tape together, and that'll give me a full-size image. Then I can cut along these lines and I can trace these body lines right where I want them to be, so it'll look like my drawing. I'd have trouble recreating this freehand, so I'm going to give this a try. I'm going to print this out, then I'll take it home, tape it all together, and I'll show you what I come up with. Let's see how it turns out. Alright, I'm back at the house now, and I've taken the 18 pieces of paper and taped them together and put them on the board here. And sure enough, just by giving it a 30-inch height, and because it's a scale drawing, I now have a full-size drawing 8 feet long. Kind of cool. This big print program is fun to use and relatively easy too. Now I'll cut around this with the scissors, and then I'll place this back on there and I'll trace the outside body line in the right location, and then I can lay in all the details. Now, truthfully, I guess I didn't really need to do this, but this is my 4th cycle cart, and I'm in no particular hurry. I'd like to do a nice job. Plus, some of you builders might get some use out of this program, and you get to see it in this video and then in the BMW design series video. So anyway. Okay, so let's talk about how I'm going to install the motor. Now, on this particular cart, I'm going to deviate from my first 3. For one, this one's going to have a differential, and it's going to have hydraulic brakes. It's also going to have a different motor mount than I've used in the past. Let's see here. And as you recall, the engine will sit at the top or slightly below the frame, top of the frame, inside this bed here on the pickup. So now let me show you where I got the idea for this. This might be a little hard to see. So I was over at Vintage Cart Co, and they've been working on a prototype of a method of installing a differential where it's a top loader. It loads into the brackets from the top. The current cars they have now, you have to take everything apart to get the differential out, and it's problematic. So this was an early prototype, and on my cart, I'm going to work with Ron over there to develop one that works on my cart, which they can use on the next car they're building. So we're going to work together on it. Now, this is the top views. Here's the frame. This would be the rear of my frame, except it's rectangle. And this is the actual motor plate right here. Hopefully you can see that. And then these are the bearing carriers. The differential's right in the middle. The sprocket is attached to the differential. The brake caliper is right next to that, and there's 4 bearings. 2 right near the differential and 2 on the outside. And these slots are for a plate that mounts here that makes the engine adjustable. Let's see, I'll show you another photo here. So this is loosely sitting on here, but you can see you put a bolt in here, and you can loosen up the 4 bolts, and you can twist the bolt and slide this plate back and forth. That's an innovation they came up with. Also, to eliminate flexing, this is kind of a boxed setup here with flanges, and it's just rigid as all get out, and this is all laser cut to save weight. Here you can see the bearing carriers. Hopefully you can see that. Here's the 2 outboard, and then the differentials right in the middle. So I'm using this as a guideline to design the one for my car. I have one more picture here. Here you can see the bearing carriers. So I'm going to show them my idea, and then they have a couple guys over there that draw on CAD that program the laser machines to cut the steel. So we're going to work together on refining the design, and I'll show you what I came up with. I got to take the camera off the tripod and show you on this whiteboard over here what I've drawn out. Hopefully you can see that. Alright, I have the camera in my hand now, and for reference, here's the area we're talking about, where the motor goes, the rear axle and the differential. So on this whiteboard here, I've drawn out a full-size drawing. Hopefully you can see this. I'll try to get close enough. This is the chassis cross rail. Here it is running down. This is the back of the chassis coming across. Here is the axle. These lines are awful faint. I was going to darken them up. Here's the rear axle. Here's an inner bearing, another inner bearing, and then a bearing in the steel chassis. And this is the difference between the one I was showing you in the photographs. What I'm planning on doing is notching the top of the 1x3, and then there's a notch at the top of each of these bearing holders here, and so this axle and differential will lift out. Then I'm going to put this gusset plate across the top to re-strengthen the frame, and then this bearing will mount in a typical fashion on the outside of the chassis with through bolts. And then I have a side view right here. I should have darkened these lines, but here you can see the bolts going through. Here's the top plate, and right here is where the top of the chassis is cut to allow it to be removed, and then the top plate bolts through and strengthens that again. I think that'll work. And then of course the bearing would be right here on the outside of the 1x3. This is the cross rail, and then here is the end of the chassis, and then here is the motor plate, that built up box section, and then this is the adjuster arm here. So let's talk about the spring and shackles first. So as you recall in an earlier segment, this is a vintage Cartco spring, and I used it to lay out the shackles and the spring perch for this front axle. And what I liked about this was that it had bushings in it. So I was talking to Jack over there, and I said, "Do you have any of these bushings?" And he said, "No, but the spring company put them in there when they made the springs." So I went down to the spring shop this afternoon and talked to the owner, took a spring with me and showed him what I was trying to do. And he was real helpful, really nice guy. So what I really am trying to do here is I'm making this spring perch. So I have a piece of tubing here, this thicker than hell, the wall of this. I bought like a 3 or 4 foot piece of it. And it should have cost me 12 or 15 bucks, but the guys down there at the metal supply house, they know me, and they gave it to me for 59 cents a pound. It cost me $3.50 for a 4 foot length of this stuff. So I could make a bunch of spring perches if I wanted to. But the thinking was that I would use this, I don't know, this is probably 1/2 inch bar, round bar. And I would drill a hole in here and I would put this into it and I would weld it. And this would become the spring perch, if you can see that. So I thought it would be nice if there was bushings in this, because that's where the top of the shackle right here goes through. And this is why I ended up going down to the spring shop, because I was trying to find these bushings. So I get down there and they have these rubber bushings. And they had some tube. This is a 3/8 diameter inside this tube. And this, of course, fits inside this bushing. These are a little bit long, but he cut these up for me. I got to deburr them, and I got to trim these to length. But as it turns out, I lucked out on this tube. This fits into the tube, so I can press it in there. And then this will fit into the rubber, and I'll have me a nice bushed spring perch. So that, I'm real happy with that. The beauty of this was I get to talking to the owner, and we go out and we cut these parts and we find these pieces, and I'm willing to pay for them, and he said, go ahead, you can have them. So it just goes to show you there's still good people in this world. The guys down at the metal supply house, they gave me a smoking deal on this tube, and then my buddy at the spring shop, he gave me this stuff for free. So I'm going to fabricate this. And let me show you. And then on the shackles, this is a piece of 3/16. Yeah. And I'm going to cut out the spring shackles. I could have had these water jet cut or laser cut, but I can hack them up with a bandsaw and grind them on the grinding wheel and make those, drill the holes. So that'll be this part, the shackle. So I have everything I need. It took me about a week to get this stuff, thinking about it. I went to the hardware store and they didn't have nothing. Then I talked to Jack and I got a lead on where to get this stuff. So today I made it down there, fought traffic. It was after work. But it was totally a successful trip, and now I have the things I need to make the perch with the bushing and the shackle. And since I already have the spring, I could complete that part of it. So that would go there like that. This would be here. And then this would be the shackle. Okay. Now I also did some work, took me in a week, on this axle. I'm going to take this down, set up the axle components, and show you that next. Alright. Let's have a little discussion about this front axle before I show you what I'm doing for the Studebaker. So if you remember, I did this full-size drawing here, true to scale to the full-size machine. Notice I lost my hood ornament when we were racing around in the dirt at the fairgrounds. Anyway, so the front axle on the new car is exactly this axle. Only slight difference, which I'll explain. But you'll notice that the spring shackle is different arrangement. I'm going to use the spring perch like I just showed you. And then there's the panhard rod. So anyway, the shape is the same. I used the pattern. And I'm going to build the axle in essence the same way. Now over here on the car, the whole idea here is, you see how this is recessed right here? I wanted to create the look of a drop forged axle that has a recess like that. And this axle matches the Austin 7 car, British car. Now this actually works pretty good. It's kind of squeaky, it needs some grease. And I control the travel by tightening these stop nuts. I welded on this little gusset here, and then I had this TIG welded in here. So it turned out all right, and it's stout as hell. I mean, bulletproof, truly. Maybe a little on the heavy side, and I'm trying to lighten it up just a little bit on this new one. So without further ado, let's show you how I'm proceeding on the new axle. Alright, so the way this axle is put together is it's hollow inside. It has two vertical ribs and then a top and bottom plate. So this is on the BMW, this was 1/8" steel, every component. In this case, I'm using 11 gauge steel, slightly thinner and a little lighter, I presume. But anyway, it's hollow inside, so it's like, I guess, an H-beam, you could say. And then this is the cross section. It'll be 1.5 high by 1 3/8 wide when it's all put together. Now I have some components here. I'm going to take the camera off the tripod and show you what's going on. So you remember the pattern that I made right here out of poster board, and then it turns out that down at work we have to use we have to have parts water jet cut for I'm a store fixture manufacturer, and occasionally we have steel components in our fixtures, so we take them over to a company that water jets. That's where you see a little bit of surface rust on the steel. But this is a piece of 12" by 48 11 gauge cold rolled steel, and they took the excuse me, they took the pattern and they scanned it, and then they used the computer to fine tune it, because you know this is hand drawn, and if you put a ruler to it, it varies just ever so slightly. So in the cutout version, it's all consistently 1 1/4, which is what I wanted. And I got all the components out of this one piece. So here are the two inner ribs. And I'm telling you, that water jet makes a nice clean cut. Super clean, actually. And truthfully, laser cutting does too, and I wouldn't have the surface rust. And I think future pieces I'll have laser cut, just because it doesn't rust. But these right here, these are ribs. And you can see how they're held together just by a thin strip of steel. These things cut, these water jet machines cut so accurate. I can break them off as I need them. And then these two pieces, I could have cut these or had them sheared, but I just had them water jet them. They came out of off of the sheet. Let's see if I can mock it up. I'm actually pretty excited about this. Oh, and let's see, cost-wise, it's not necessarily the cheapest thing at this point in time. The piece of steel was, I think, $15. And then, you know, they had to scan it and write the program. That was $25 setup. Then it was $75 to cut the parts. So, you know, I got over $100 in this thing. It's not necessarily cheap. But it'll be a premium axle. Alright, I'm happy with the way these turned out. They should make for a nice spring perch. I was going to use this 5/8 diameter rod, but I thought it was maybe just a little bit too big. So I think this will work. I ran them through the bead blaster to clean them up, so they look good. I'm in the process of making the 4 shackles for the spring and perch. This was my original pattern, and I decided to refine it a little bit. These 2 right here are the same diameter, so I used this to make it a little bit larger. So then I took this pattern, placed it on, this is the 1/8 inch steel, traced around it with the blue marker. Then here's one I finished right here. So I got close to the blue line, but it was hard to see. So I have some bluing dye here. And then I can use this scribe. I can place this on here because I left a little bit all the way around. And I scribe around it, nice sharp point. And that'll give me a line I can see to where I can get the pattern just right. I can grind right up to the line. And this one's finished here pretty much. And it fits real nice. Then these are the placement of the holes, the 3/8 holes, so I can mark those later. So anyway, I'm grinding away. Got my face shield and a bucket of water to keep everything cool. Now I've clamped them together so that I can sand them, and I'm using the disc and a file. I'll work my way all the way around so they're all identical. And then I can sand each one nice and smooth, drill the holes, and those will be ready for powder coat. I put them in the bead blaster, cleaned them up. So I'm getting there. Well, I was fairly productive this afternoon. Managed to get the spring perch fabricated. I still need to weld it, or maybe I'll have my buddy TIG weld that. Got the shackles made. I'm real happy with those. Still got to do the bushings, but that'll come later during assembly or mock-up. Okay, continuing on. Alright, I have these little dividers that I want to place in between here as evenly as possible. So first I made a reference line here and a reference line here. That way I can line the parts up. This piece here flips over on top of this one. So my first order of business will be to weld these in, tack them in. I'll use the magnet here to hold them up plumb. I have these little blocks here just so that I can slide them around and they'll stay put. I rigged up that's the center line, so I can branch out from there. So now I flipped over the top half. I've got everything lined up as good as I can get it and clamped down, and it's ready to tack up. Alright, I'm happy with the progress so far. Got a good start on this little axle. Everything tacked in. Not the prettiest welds in the world, but I think they'll hold. I believe I got enough heat to it. Here's the top and bottom strips. So the challenge there is to follow the shape on the top and on the bottom. I'll probably have to heat the steel up to shape this part. I think I can get this initial swooping center with the slip roll. I think. I don't know. This is fairly thick steel. I'm not sure if the roll will work on it. We'll see. So I chucked up this piece of steel here in the slip roll, and I was able to get this initial bend fairly easily. Put this on here so you can see it follows it pretty good. So here I have one ready to roll. Let's put this on here. Okay. Just going back and forth, eyeballing it up. There's my center line where I start on the roll. And then I can just eyeball it. Yeah, that looks pretty good for a starting point. Okay, not too bad. It's a nice start. So now I'll just keep working it till I get it. Well, after messing with this thing for a while, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut this centerpiece short. That'll give me a smaller piece that I can heat up and work it around this shape, and then I'll weld these back together after I get everything shaped. So that's the plan of attack. I'm going to set up the oxyacetylene torch and make this metal red hot, see what I can come up with. So here's where I'm heading with this thing. You can see where here I'll have to trim it to length and weld it back together. And of course I still have to form these lower ones. I'll do them the same way. Starting to look like an axle. All right. Well, there you have it. End of video number 2. In video number 3, we'll continue on. You know, this is my 4th build. I'm in no particular hurry. You know, I'd like to do a nice job on it. I'd like to get a rolling chassis going. That's really my goal at this point, is get that thing on wheels. So that axle will get finished up, and so will the spring perch. And I have my chassis over at Ron's. We're working on that motor plate I was talking about. Might be a couple of weeks, but there's plenty of little things I can do, and I'll start on the next video and be back with you soon. Thanks for watching. Okay.